Greetings, nerds. This is SNN Nerd. I'm your host, Sarah Belmont, and with me, as always, is our Mr. Producer, Will Polk. How are you doing tonight, Will?
Doing very well, Sarah. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing fine, except we have to talk about the Justice League.
See, I knew you were going to stick to form.
I mean,
yeah,
it was a trailer. It was a decent trailer, but it felt more like Snyder Cut, Batman v Superman, and Justice League. Or featuring Justice League.
Yeah, it did. I mean, it. I will say it didn't really give us anything new. I mean, it did give us some new visuals. I mean, obviously the Superman emerging from at the beginning was pretty dope, and we did get a few more visuals that haven't been teased in the lead up to the trailer. But as far as how this 4-hour apology to Zack is going to go, I guess I got a better sense as far as like, okay, Darkseid is there and he's going to try to take over the Earth, and of course we got the line about the Joker at the very end of the trailer, which with the "we live in a society" finally becoming canon. But so there were some new things, but.
Right, but yeah. I mean, that clip was in the dream sequence. Yeah. That's from Batman v Superman, right? That dream sequence is from Batman v Superman.
Yeah, it is. It is. The only addition is we just have Jared Leto's Joker there. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm kind of confused, because we hear about how much footage is being added and everything, and now I'm scratching my head and just thinking, wait a second. Is he also trying to make, like, is he still on the Batman v Superman, I shall save that too?
He might. I think that's part of it. I think it is utilizing all that footage. And I was reading an article about, I guess Zack said he hadn't watched Joss Whedon's version of the film. And so I wonder, if you're going to make this in your own vision and finish it how you wanted it to be made to begin with, and not fall into the traps that Joss fell into trying to, clearly he's not going to try to sprinkle in MCU into it like Joss tried to do and created a Frankenstein of a movie. But what it would have been helpful to know as far as like the cut, how not to fall into the same, I don't know, how to make it better, I guess, than what was released a few years ago.
Right. I mean, that was the goal. That's what the fans wanted.
Right.
But I think, there's still bad dialogue.
Yeah.
I thought the age of heroes was over, and they said it would never come back, and then all Bruce says is it has to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really? That's the best you could come up with? It has to. We get it. It has to. It'll all be for naught, and you feel guilty because you killed your potential best friend, but you had the same mom. So melodramatic.
So melodramatic, and maybe the stuff that Joss cut out that gives more context or more depth to that line. What Zack is adding back in? Maybe.
Speaking about melodramas, more importantly, so true story. I didn't watch WandaVision right away on Friday. I was too busy watching To All the Boys I Loved Before, Always and Forever. My priorities.
Yep.
Need to be in check. So, and I remember seeing a tweet you put out asking if I agreed with the ranking that this trilogy got progressively worse.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fact. I'm not surprised by it. The reason why the first one worked was because Lana Condor and Noah Centineo No one had ever really seen them outside of maybe one or two things, and their chemistry just like jumped right, like made everything better and made all of like the typical teenage drama, romance, comedy work in a really good way. The problems with the sequels are, it is not them falling in love anymore. It is them being in love, breaking up, getting back together.
Oh gosh.
Which is really just you're sitting here and you're just like, I just want to see them be in love and goof around, but there's all of this angst that's not even really angst. It's just lame. I did like the second one. The third one, it just the third one did what a lot of third movies do that really bothers me. They clearly end the trilogy, but they also left it in a way where I'm thinking to myself, okay, I need an epilogue because I need to know how this actually works. You're saying all of these things. You're saying that you're going to be together forever and always, but I have my doubts here. So I just need some concrete footage of this actually working. And if it doesn't, I want to know why. But that's why we have fan fiction. So yeah.
Well, we need another Sarah Belmont cut of fan video, so of how this film should have gone instead of how it actually went.
Oh no, you're not getting one of those. And, yeah, that's a long story of why I haven't put out one in a very long time.
I know you were having some technical issues. I know we talked about it.
I think that's an understatement. Things just don't work. I'm not interested in it anymore. And yeah, 'tis life. We move on. The last bit of news I want to get to before we jump into some of these shows is Pedro Pascal has been cast as Joel in The Last of Us HBO Max series. And oddly enough, the child actress who played Lady Mormont in Game of Thrones, which Will has not seen, and so he doesn't understand this reference, but everyone who watched the series knows Lady Mormont, and she's going to star as Ellie, which is just so weird to me. Do you know about The Last of Us?
I know it's a video game, and I know it's I guess it's a apocalyptic dystopian situation where Joel is trying to rescue Elle from. I mean, I know generally. I mean, I've heard of it, but I never played it.
So I've never played it, but I've watched all of the cutscenes.
Okay.
So I know the story, and I have watched all of the cutscenes of The Last of Us Part 2.
Okay.
And so they're online, and if you're interested, I would watch it.
Okay.
Because it really is cool what they do and the story they tell. I especially liked watching Troy Baker play the game and his reaction, because he's the voice of Joel. And so he was able to elevate everything you were seeing on screen and just tell you all of these little touches that they put in. You're right. It is a bit apocalyptic, like Walking Dead. But the story, as simple as it is, it just was really good storytelling. So I'm excited to see the series. I have heard, though, the problem with bringing video games to either the big screen or television, you always suffer from, it worked well as a video game because people playing the game, they embody that character.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to then transfer that into a medium where you're just watching things happen. Yeah. And everyone's really curious that, are they just going to take all those cutscenes and edit them together and that's going to be the show? Or are they actually going to expand upon it and elevate the material? And this, you don't want to get these characters wrong, because these are probably some of the most famous video game characters there are.
Yeah.
And this story, like, it's pretty insane. But I don't know about this casting of Pedro Pascal. Love the man, adore the man, but from what I know about The Last of Us, this is just another version of Mando.
Yeah. And I guess that's what when I was reading about the series and being in development, I got that kind of vibe as well with Joel, with this mission to help with Elle as well. I did get those vibes.
Yeah, it is. Elle is a fascinating character too, especially knowing what I know about Last of Us Part 2. I hope they do Part 2. I really want to see Elle in that world. But yeah, she's very much Baby Yoda.
Okay.
and she talks. That's a plus. She has a story. She makes her own decisions. But I really, I don't know. It's very much the same character. He's done a lot of bad things. He encounters a kid who needs his help, finds himself begrudgingly needing to care for this kid, and along the way, like, it's a path of redemption.
Yeah.
And then something happens.
Yeah, it does sound a lot like Jin Jarin.
Yeah, I don't know. I get what they're going for. Pedro Pascal is a name right now, so you got to get him while he's still Pedro Pascal and not just the guy from Game of Thrones.
Yeah. He is the it actor right now for sure.
So you also had an interesting week because you took the time to, from what I can tell, record a mini review of the Black Lightning season premiere.
Yeah. I didn't know if we would get to it tonight or not, but we did talk about it briefly last week. That the series was returning for its fourth and unfortunately final season, and it did come back, and I thought it was a very solid return from the end of last year, and of course everything being pushed back forever. It was good to see it back, but there was definitely a lot of fallout from all that had occurred in the third season with Detective Henderson, Jefferson. Mm-hmm. Being in great grief about his loss. But there was also one thing that did kind of threw me off a little bit was at the end of the third season, Jefferson it appeared he was testifying, I think, before Congress or some type of oversight board about the ASA and the things that they did in Markovia. And it seemed that when the story picked up in the fourth season, all of that sort of just went out the window as far as him being that, and then also just now being a part of the new Justice League and the Arrowverse. Even though there was a nod in the show to Crisis in that they just threw a little throwaway line like something happened in Freeland, and if you don't know, you must have been living on some other world. So they did do a nice little subtle tie-in to Crisis to let you know that that they are now part of the unified Earth Prime. But but like always, the series definitely is very grounded, which especially when we turn to Batwoman here shortly. I definitely appreciated that even more with the way these two shows are. In particular, Black Lightning has always been grounded and remains so. I mean, there was definitely a nod to Black Lives Matter and all the issues of George Floyd this past summer, and of course, they never forgot that. um, but there was also a lot of grief and people dealing with the um, um, issues that they had dealt that happened because Jennifer and Anissa and even now Lynn have all killed, and
Mhm.
and and how they reacted to it. Jefferson's feeling like very. It seems Jefferson is dealing with it a lot more personally because he's like, it's kind of that loss of innocence that my family now is like
Yeah.
gotten their hands dirty,
Yeah.
and dealing with that. So I don't know if you had a chance to watch it, but if you did, I'd like to hear your thoughts on the
No, I didn't get a
Mr.
chance
Prayer.
to watch
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
But that's interesting because I remember back during the first season, we were talking about what will the ramifications be when his children,
mhm,
especially, have to kill someone.
yeah,
And that's that's a classic superhero trope. The first time that you do and what that does and the conscious and everything and your humanity. So it sounds like they went there, which is a
yeah,
great thing, and they actually included all members of Jefferson's family.
yeah,
So
yeah, 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 and then also yeah, plus Jefferson and Lynn's relationship is strained once again, and so they they were in couples counseling, and it was done a lot better than what was done in the Flash as far as when Barry and Iris went to couples counseling. But it was again just the maturity of the show, I think, as
mm,
far as like Lynn and because Jefferson was very distant, and and they were just really discussing the lack of intimacy between the two of them, and obviously the counselor was tuned into the fact that that he's Black Lightning. So it all those dynamics as far as their relationship really played out there, and then Lynn, of course, having some residual. I mean, she's also out there on the street now, moonlighting as a vigilante because of her, messing, experimenting with green light. So, there was that, and she got into a jam when she was um, out on a mission, and she was really like figuring out like, oh, now I understand what Jefferson's going through. And so at the end of the episode, there was a moment of understanding between the two of them, and as she really has a better understanding about what all the burdens he's been carrying as Black Lightning. And then of course the big thing that was and I think one of our listeners like even tweeted wondering what my reaction would be to Tobias Well saying "Make Freeland Great Again." I was just like, "Damn, Tobias!" It's like that's it. That's the Well. I mean, he again, like just like he has in all previous seasons, has manipulated his way into um, becoming a reputable citizen, and how he's rehabilitated his image. Yeah,
didn't they have that reference in the first season?
they did, but the first season he was like respectable. So I mean, a lot of things have come full circle. But with the ASA and the Markovians out of the way, he's sort of back to take over what is his, and he's like committed to cleaning up the green light. And of course, Lala is also back as well, and really has taken control of the underworld. So it's set up a lot of good things that for their last season, will be I think they have some good storylines that they can take up, and then also there's some characters like Painkiller. I mean, Khalil wasn't in this episode, but Gambi was, and Gambi had, I think I assume this woman was his like ex-wife or partner, but she visited him and is trying to get him back into the service, so that they can utilize his skill set, and of course he was he always is Jefferson's conscious, so. And was trying to help him shake out of a slump. So overall, very strong return. I think like I said, I do hate that it's his fourth season, but sometimes, it's better to go out on top instead of sticking around too long.
Always better to go out on top.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
So, and if our listeners want to hear more about Will's thoughts on Black Lightning, then you can go and check out that mini review. But moving on to another Cape Crusader on CW, we got to talk about most recent episode of Batwoman, fair skin, blue eyes. So, Batwoman.
Yeah.
I still love the show. I still think the writing is there.
Yeah.
I do, when I was watching it, this episode in particular, I kept thinking about our last conversation about Batwoman season 2. And this episode really stuck out to me because it continued that unfortunate, we have two stories going on and we're trying to balance both of them. And we are interweaving, but it still feels like two different shows. It still feels like we're learning about Ryan.
Yeah.
Where Ryan has her own stories, her own perspective on Gotham and everything, and has had her own experience. And then we're also still on we need to get Kate back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kate, and Alice and Sophia and all of that, and Sophie, and it's just it's the one character who seems to be able to go back and forth seamlessly is Mary.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
But it's just this episode, I kept thinking about that conversation and that point that was brought up, and it really just became clear in this episode. However, there were some nice touches, especially at the end, of some connections, but I want them to get it there faster. I really want Ryan to all of a sudden learn about Sophia.
Yeah.
I really want cohesion. And at this rate, I don't expect it until the next half of the season, although I'm still kind of at a loss as to how this season is being broken up.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I think they will go straight through. I don't know if we'll have we may have a little small break, but yeah, I you are so on point bringing that point up, because this episode really drove that point home. That we are watching it's like two different shows in a span of the 42 minutes that that the episode runs, because I will say at first it took me a while to get into this episode. I don't know if it was just, I think part of it was the topic, part of it was when you're dealing with a very serious issue like child trafficking. And then on the flip side, you got this crazy Alice story on the side. It was kind of like, it would almost better off if they had just shelved the Alice story for the week. And then just really focus on the story that they were telling about with the candy lady and Ryan's past, because it was, as I was touching on earlier with Black Lightning, how the show is grounded. I felt this week that part of the story of Supergirl, of Batwoman, was very grounded.
Yeah.
It really took on a very serious issue, and it didn't do the light Arrowverse resolution, in the sense that they did. Obviously, at the end, we did have a good resolution with the kid's brother. That they were able to keep him from killing Jacob Kane, but they did really drive home the point that, and I think I was reading. I think Caroline Dries was saying that originally they had even considered doing this particular episode in season 1, but it just didn't really flow correctly, having Kate being the being the person rescuing the kids and stuff. It really, really did take Ryan. But I think the where it did work in linking Alice and Ryan together, the best part where the story worked together was when they were searching for Beth.
Yeah, I really liked that part. I kind of felt like they were gonna do that, but it for whatever reason, I think I thought it at the beginning, and then it went away. And when they finally did it, I was like, okay, I get it now.
Yeah.
It was a good touch. The part where, to go back to your point about they didn't shy away from it, I have one issue with the ending of this. I still don't like how Ryan found where Jacob and Kevin were. It doesn't make any sense to me. I get it. She was looking for him. But did you pick up on actually how she figured out where they were?
She said it. I mean, that to me was like the really great writing, because
but all she said was, I was looking for them.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it gets to the deeper point that we've talked about with this season with Ryan, in that and why the story wouldn't have worked for Kate is because Ryan knows the streets. And earlier in the episode where she talked about whenever she and Mary were in the van together and talking about the side of town that I can't remember the name of it, but that part of the district of Gotham, people like the Jacob Kanes and the Kit Kanes of the world don't think about that. And so it really drove home the point that, if, people weren't looking for them, but it's because Ryan knew about that particular side of town, and then where the Candy Lady gang would have taken Jacob, that's why she knew where to look for him.
But see, that was another confusing part to me, because Candy Lady was trafficking the children, but selling them to people. And then Ryan asked, "Who did you sell him to?" And then Ryan punched her lights out. So in my mind, I'm trying to figure out, okay, so at what point did the Candy Lady regain consciousness to tell her exactly what person he got sold to? Because then you're just talking about a needle in a haystack. I get your point, and I understand why they said that line, like that, meaning that subtext isn't lost on me. To me, it just felt the way, for whatever reason, it just stuck out as cliche and kind of like, oh, okay, well.
Yeah, but I think
logically, I'm still wondering, how did you figure that out so quickly?
Yeah, well, I think it ties back to the beginning of the episode as well, because whenever we finally get to see Ryan driving the Batmobile, and she comes across the False Face Society at the very beginning, and she does, whenever she comes across the kid's brother, Kevin's brother, it was, it took her back to her background and her experiences as far as being groomed to be sold into these gangs or to some other network. So I think it was just really, I think what they were trying to show there was just utilizing her deductive skills in, based off of her life experience that she has, that Kate probably would not have been able to figure that out, whereas Ryan was able to because of her experiences growing up in Gotham.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Well, they both technically grew up in Gotham.
They're
but different sides of the town.
Different sides of the town. Yeah.
Yeah. So, no, I get all of that. I don't. My logic, you're not going to convince me otherwise on that line. It's just, let's talk about Alice, because Alice, I don't think it was, I forget what you called it. like a crazy Alice story because she didn't really do anything in this episode. And that, I think, stood out to me the most, is that between her, Sophie, and Luke,
Mm-hmm.
all it was exposition about Sophia.
Yeah.
It was just, well, Sophia wants this guy named Ocean, who we find out at the end there's some history that Alice has forgotten about, which I am intrigued by. But it took the whole episode to get there, which is annoying. And they cross paths unknowingly with Angelique, who's Ryan's old flame and is also going to be back next episode. I'm kind of curious as to where that character is going to go, because it doesn't look like it's going to be a happily ever after. They broke up for a reason. Don't know what that's about. So it just, I think with all of Ryan's stuff that was going on, Ryan was really the A storyline, as she should be. Mm-hmm. A lot of action, a lot of momentum, a lot of movement. But I felt like with everyone else, what they were doing, it was just, let's sit around and talk about our feelings again, because we haven't done that for 3 episodes.
Yeah, exactly.
It's annoying.
Yeah.
Go.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, the other thing that really stood out to me, and you predicted this last time, is just they're really going hard with these Joker references.
Yeah, they are.
I was not expecting them to even pull that. Like, that's what I really liked about the flashbacks, is when Candy Lady just looks like, oh, look, Batman put away Joker. And I'm like, what?
Yep. Put away the Joker. They brought the foot. They brought the painting back up again this week. And another, speaking of this flashbacks, even referencing Green Lantern. I mean, which was a nice touch again, just to show that he is indeed in this unit, that core is in this universe. And so, yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, it was a lot of exposition with them, and it was a little. I mean, Kate was still the elephant in the room, but it was a little better this week. It's, each episode we're getting fewer and fewer minutes. Yes, we know she's gone. Yes, we know. So we're trying to figure out who downed her plane and stuff. And was she even on the plane? And so yeah, it's there, but you're right. I think Mary and to some degree Luke are like are sort of the bridge characters to who will link the ultimate showdown between Alice and Ryan and Sophia at some point this season.
Yeah, if Ryan ever becomes aware that there's this person called Sophia, she may be a threat. And Luke, I think, is the bridge that keeps going straight to Kate. That's all he does right now, is he just has this guilty conscience, and he wants her to be found so things can go back to the way they were.
Yeah.
And so I'm waiting for that breakthrough moment with him. And based on the previews for next week, it sounds like it's coming. Mm-hmm. But we'll see, because they're moving that really slowly with him.
Yeah. Go
ahead.
No, I was just going to say, as far as Angelique, as far as her, to your question, what role she's going to play. I mean, I think just like how I guess Kate and Sophie had their back of the angst with Kate trying to deal with being Batwoman and not telling Sophie and that relationship drama there. I guess Angelique will probably play that role somewhat moving forward, and also just given their deep history there with Ryan taking the fall for Angelique, but also Angelique saving her from the Candy Lady years earlier. Again, just as Ryan continues to evolve as Batwoman, and if Angelique is still I was just thinking back to the last episode with oh gosh, I'm blanking on his name. The guy cuts himself up.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, it's only been like 2 weeks ago, but I'm blanking on his name. But you know, he cuts himself up whenever he like.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. I can't see his name for the life of me. So
yeah, that's okay. Yeah, but I get you know, but there was a reference to some of that in that with him and Ryan too. So you know, so I'm thinking Angelique may still have some.
She might be the tie to Black Mask.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I know she's gonna be the tie to something. Black Mask. See, I appreciate the way they're looming that. They know that they announced it, so they know that's all the viewers are thinking about. And FYI, the viewers have moved on from Sophia.
Yeah.
Sophia, who's pretty much in the League of Shadows. So we've seen it.
Yep.
Go check out Arrow season 3. All right. All right. We got one last show to talk about, WandaVision. I'm not as excited tonight to talk about WandaVision. This is a fine episode.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
It also, this is why I don't like trailers. Because I remember a few weeks ago, you told me, go check out the new trailer, and so we can talk about it, and I did, and they showed Vision breaking through the barrier.
Yeah.
So this whole episode, la 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 la, let's break through the barrier. La, la, la. So it was very anticlimactic from that sense. There was the other part of the episode where recognized Malcolm in the Middle right from the get-go.
Yeah. Yep.
So famous. Really like that.
I did too.
All of the self-referencing Pietro and just, you are dead, you are really doing this. I loved all of that. And I did like how we learned more about the outer skirts of the town, and how people, we're talking about magic, we're talking about a power, but this power can only handle so much, and so there are kind of weaker spots where these people are literally just stuck.
Yeah, that was. Yeah, I mean that was the moment when Vision was walking out and that eerie, you know, with the lady kept trying to hang the thing up and the tear coming down her cheek. I mean, that was one of the standout moments to the episode to me, because you know it does get to the point about the limits of Wanda's power, but also but also again with the whole sitcom trope that they're using, you know, with the line, like for example, last week or week before last, where Vision was like, "Where are all the children?" And so now this episode we see all the children in the neighborhood, because just like sitcoms, unless there's a plot reason for it to be there, you know, you don't have those extra things. It's always focused on that little hub of the family unit in that sitcom. So you know, the outside world beyond Ellis Street in this case was it is completely, you know, not a non-issue. And also I love the Malcolm in the Middle reference too. And I was thinking about the theme song to that show, You're Not the Boss of Me Now, and just thinking about the characters of Vision, Peter, and the boys, and Agnes, how each one of them are showing how Wanda can't control them.
Oh, or that they can't. Wanda can clearly control them, but the further we get in the series, the more that there are these breaks.
Yeah.
And because she also seems to be questioning and struggling with, is she doing the right thing? What is really happening? And every time it breaks, she thinks like, oh, I'll just rewind and we'll take it again.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's just a reminder that this isn't real.
Yeah.
Something else is going on.
Yeah, and also, this episode, with those breaks now, she's not rewinding things and restarting it.
Right. We haven't seen that in a while.
Yeah.
Instead, it's more people are talking to the cameras.
Mm-hmm. A lot of fourth wall breaking there.
A lot of fourth wall breaking. Very classic sitcoms that we know that occurred, and so I like that. I think another part of this episode that didn't work as well was the sword aspect.
Mm.
And I mean, I love that they were all turned into clowns because they're the clear threat, and so now she's expanded her reach, her hex, and pretty much sword is now all a part of Westview.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I almost like it better when this is a sword episode. So let's only focus on what those characters are doing, what Monica's doing, and her Scooby-Doo crew is doing, Darcy, and then let's go back into Westview and unravel what's really happening and who's behind this.
Mm-hmm.
I think when they merge them, it's not as cohesive as some of those early standalone episodes.
Yeah. Well, I think now that, because I guess the first 2 episodes were obviously setting us up, and then of course we had the the real breaks out episode where you're right, they did have the standalone where Darcy and the agent are like figuring out what's going on, and they playing our role as far as in universe that Wanda's creating this sitcom world. And I mean, so I agree with you there that it does not seem as cohesive in the story, and I agree with you too. This week was a letdown from. I mean, there was some like pretty cool moments, but unlike last week where, I mean, there were just moments where I was just like, I think I even joked on our show last week, I was like pointing at the screen like the Leo DiCaprio meme. I didn't have those types of same kind of vibes this week. It was kind of like, it really was like closing out the second act of the show to build into the third act.
Right, exactly. I felt the same exact way. I was there, I was walking around, and I acknowledged what they're doing. It just there wasn't as much momentum, and I wasn't as engaged. I was just, let's get to Vision breaking through the wall, and he gets stuck, and then he gets thrown back.
Or it could have just been that you were just hungover from
what?
To All the Boys. I said it could have been you were just hungover from To All the Boys I Loved.
No. Don't forget my reaction to that movie.
Yeah.
I needed something good.
Yeah. Yeah, but you're right. I mean, I think it was that. I mean, I think and plus, I guess the other thing too, to your point about trailers and whatnot, is we've seen a lot of the scenes of, as far as the classic comic, even though it was cosplay-esque with Wanda and the Vision and their traditional Scarlet Witch and comic attire. So we've seen those elements before, and like you said, the Vision breaking through the hex barrier and stuff. So I mean, there were some familiar beats that we've seen and out of context, and now in context, it's like, okay, again, like I said, it does sort of set things back, closing out the second act. But I guess the other thing that really stood out to me is in the episode, again, picking up on our conversation about the commercials, was the Yo Magic one. Yep. In this episode, and really getting to the getting back to Wanda's creation and Puerto's creation in this universe, but also trying to juxtapose that. Well, how did we get the recast Peter into our universe? Because we know that Peter is clearly a mutant, whereas in the MCU, Wanda and her Pietro were created by the Mind Stone. So, I think this was a way to like back end the show, to show how, Hydra's creation of them was like, maybe just awakening Wanda's already latent ability, in universe, even though out of universe, it was, obviously because of rights issues, but at least in universe, I think it was definitely an allusion to that.
An allusion to
Wanda's, the Baron, Stryker creating Wanda and her brother through the Mind Stone.
Oh.
Awakening her magic powers that she already had there to begin with.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought it was more of a homage to who's ever controlling her right now.
Yeah, it could be that.
The people in it. I mean, we saw it. They were there. Yeah. A lot of them were stuck and dealing with their own pain and misery, and Wanda's magic kind of makes them all happy and turns them into clowns, but that's almost draining them more. And at one point, I think Randall Park's character says, "Are those people even alive?"
Yeah. Oh, I think that Yo Magic also definitely touches on that too. I mean, as far as being stuck and to the place where you just can't open the seal.
Yeah, it's again, this is another episode with one commercial.
Mm-hmm.
And a commercial that I think is more debated than any of the other ones.
Yeah.
But it also was a great commercial because it was very nostalgic for me to watch. I'm like, I remember those types of commercials.
Yeah.
You got that vibe right.
Right. Yeah. That early 2000,
I think that's it for us tonight. Will, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me at Will M. Polk, WILLMPOLK.
You can find me at SJ Belmont, SJBELMONT. Please follow our crew on Twitter at CNN Nerd. Friend us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, but most importantly, rate, subscribe, and comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. Good night, Geek Out. You're welcome.